Okay, let's jump right in. We've got this really interesting stack of material here, articles, research, all pointing towards, well, a different way to think about the human body.
Right. For so long, the main view has been pretty mechanical, hasn't it?
Exactly, like your body's a car, separate parts,
Yeah.
engine, transmission. If one bit breaks, you just fix that bit.
And while that model has its uses, got us somewhere.
Okay.
The real insight from this material is that biology is moving past that. It's a big shift.
Yeah, a shift from seeing just parts to seeing this incredibly complex, interconnected system.
Dynamic, too.
Yeah.
Always changing.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, really, to kind of pull out the key ideas from all this stuff.
Because, according to these sources, this system's view,
Yeah.
it changes, well, almost everything.
Totally. How we think about being healthy, about disease, even about what we eat or the supplements we might take.
So, systems biology, at its core, it sees living things not as just collections of parts, but as these intricate networks, constantly interacting.
Webs of biochemical reactions all influencing each other. It's about the connections.
Precisely. It's the interactions that matter, not just the individual molecules or cells in isolation.
Which is such a contrast to that older parts-based way of thinking. And the sources mention a really key moment, the Human Genome Project.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
There was this huge expectation, wasn't there? That humans, being so complex, must have, hundreds of thousands of genes compared to simpler organisms.
But the result was surprising.
Understatement.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up having roughly the same number of genes as a C. elegans, a tiny little roundworm.
Which really made scientists stop and think.
Absolutely. It was a wake-up call. Genetics alone couldn't explain everything. It had to be about how those genes interact.
And interact with everything else, right? Our thoughts, our food, environment, lifestyle.
Exactly. All those external factors.
Yeah.
That realization really forced the move towards systems thinking.
What I find fascinating, too, is this idea of holism, seeing the body as one integrated system. It feels new in Western science.
But it's actually ancient wisdom, as the material points out.
Yeah, systems like Siddha and Ayurveda, they've been based on this holistic view for, 5,000 years?
That's right. And the sources suggest their core principles, things like balance points, feedback loops, are remarkably similar to concepts in modern control systems engineering.
Wow. So understanding how disturbance in one area affects the whole thing.
Just like engineers designing complex systems today, it really is a case of East meeting West, viewed through this system's lens.
Okay, so looking at the body this way, it also shines a light on some big problems with how we develop health products now.
Oh, definitely. The sources are quite critical, especially about the pharmaceutical industry.
They call the current approach almost medieval.
Yeah, it's strong language, but it highlights this major issue,
Yeah.
the difficulty in predicting toxicity and risk early on.
Which makes development incredibly expensive and, risky. Problems often only show up late in the game in clinical trials.
And it's not just pharma. That growing market for supplements, herbs. The sources say development there is often ad hoc and unscientific.
Meaning it's based more on tradition or maybe a single study without really understanding the complex interactions in the body.
Pretty much. There's this urgent need for ways to figure out efficacy and toxicity right at the start.
Up front. Before spending millions, and crucially, without excessive animal testing or putting humans at unnecessary risk in trials.
We need better predictive tools.
Which conveniently brings us to one of the main solutions highlighted in the material, Cytosolve.
Yes, Cytosolve. It's described as the world's first computational systems biology platform.
Developed out of Dr. V.A. Shiva Ayadurai's PhD work at MIT.
That's the one. Essentially, it's a scalable way to integrate models of molecular pathways. Think about it like building a virtual simulation of how thousands of biological reactions interact inside you.
So you can computationally model the whole system or parts of it.
Exactly. And that gives it this predictive power. You can computationally assess the potential risk, toxicity, and efficacy of a substance.
Before it even gets near a lab bench or a person. That's huge.
It's potentially transformative for product development. The sources say it helps companies make products faster, cheaper, and safer.
And they mention it's used in some certifications, like Certified CLEAN and RAW.
Yeah, providing a sort of scientific backing, a systems-level verification for consumers looking at those products.
Interesting. And for complex diseases. Things involving lots of different cells and signals.
That's where it could be really powerful instead of just trying to find one magic bullet, one molecule to target.
Which often doesn't work for complex stuff.
Right. Cytosolve helps build these integrative models. It might help find new biomarkers or even combinations of compounds that work together to benefit the whole system. Multi-combination therapies.
Okay, let's make this more concrete. The immune system is a great example discussed in the sources.
Absolutely. It's often described as the body's operating system.
And it's pretty shocking to read that some core ideas in immunology actually date back to 1915,
Yeah, there's a real need for an update for a systems perspective.
which is where systems immunology comes in.
Right. It's all about understanding how that whole complex network, all the interacting parts of the immune system work together to create responses, not just looking at pieces in isolation.
And the complexity is just staggering. The sources mention, what, 350 CD antigens?
Those markers on cell surfaces,
Hmm.
over 100 cytokines, the signaling molecules,
Plus all the different cell types, thousands of genes. It's mind-boggling.
it has been, traditionally. But the good news is technology has caught up. These high-throughput methods let us measure a lot of this complexity at once.
We can actually gather the data now on how these components interact.
We can. And that leads to discovering new relationships, understanding why vaccines might work differently for different people,
Connecting immune function to other diseases.
and building those sophisticated integrative models of the whole immune response.
So we're seeing this systems approach, especially with platforms like Cytosolve, being used to figure out how natural compounds interact with these systems.
Exactly. The sources give a whole list of examples.
Yeah, I saw that. Things most people know, like turmeric, ginger, garlic, spinach,
Like cumin seeds, cinnamon, onions, beetroot, arugula.
but also things like bitter gourd, moringa, neem, green tea, even combinations like caffeine and arginine.
Beta-kinase, quercetin, vitamin D, glutathione, colloidal silver. It's a pretty diverse list.
It really shows the breadth of how this can be applied. And you mentioned it's not just single ingredients.
Right. Analyzing combinations, looking for synergistic effects, or even potential negative interactions, and developing those multi-combination approaches.
And this is where it gets really relevant for you listening at home. It means moving beyond just hearing, oh, turmeric is good for inflammation.
Right. This type of analysis aims to show how the specific molecular mechanisms, how compounds in turmeric actually interact with the networks in your inflammatory system.
So it's a much deeper systems level picture, moving past just anecdotes.
Definitely. So let's tie this all together. Why does this deep dive matter for you? What are the big takeaways?
Well, first, just adopting this systems view gives you a much more complete way to think about your own body health and disease, seeing the interconnectedness.
And second, it's driving real innovation, potentially safer, more effective products, whether they're conventional or natural.
Plus, it paves the way for things like true precision medicine, treatments tailored to your unique biological system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe the most empowering part is understanding that your body is this dynamic system.
Yeah. It means your choices, food, exercise, stress management, environment, they aren't just affecting isolated parts.
They're inputs into your whole system. They create ripples.
It encourages you to think more consciously about managing your own personal ecosystem, doesn't it?
It really does.
So this whole shift, from parts to systems, helped along by technologies like Cytosolve. It feels like it's bridging ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science.
Unlocking new ways to understand health. It's a really powerful moment.
Okay, so here's something to mull over based on all this. If your body really is this dynamic, interconnected system, what's just one small change you could make today?
Maybe something you eat or how you move, or even just managing thoughts.
What's one small thing that might create a positive ripple effect across your entire system? Something to think about.